Before we get into the story, please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel and let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. My name is Leanna, I'm 36 years old, and today I want to talk about an experience that has touched me deeply, something I shared with my nephew, Jalen. It was a connection that unfolded gradually, starting one quiet evening in Maruga. My husband, Aaron, had been working tirelessly on a big project in Dala for months. His days were filled with long hours at the construction site, leaving our home quieter and emptier than ever. It had become common for him to leave early in the morning and return late at night, if at all. This routine meant that we rarely saw each other, and the little moments we used to share had all but disappeared. I remember feeling particularly drained and lonely that night, weighed down by a sense of emptiness that had been slowly creeping in over the past few weeks. I decided to go to bed early, hoping that the silence of the empty house would give me some much-needed rest. As I lay there, enveloped in the silence, I began to drift off to sleep, feeling a rare sense of peace and comfort. But then something stirred me from my slumber. At first I thought I was dreaming. Slowly opening my eyes, I saw my nephew, Jalen, standing at the foot of my bed. He was holding a notebook and looking slightly anxious, as if he didn't want to disturb me but had no choice. "Sorry to wake you, Leanna, but I need this notebook for a university assignment, and I couldn't find it anywhere else," he said, his voice soft and apologetic. Jalen had always been polite and considerate, so his unexpected presence in my room at this hour took me by surprise. Still half asleep, I sat up, adjusted my nightgown, and managed to give him a gentle, reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Jalen, it's all right." "Why don't you sit down for a while?" I said, gesturing to a chair by my bed. He seemed hesitant, but after a moment's pause, he accepted the invitation and sat down in the chair. As he did so, we began to chat, and our conversation naturally turned to his studies. Jalen was in his final year of university, and he explained how challenging this final stretch had been for him. He talked about his workload, the pressure of exams, and the late nights spent studying. As he spoke, I was captivated by the maturity in his voice and the thoughtfulness of his expression. It struck me that Jalen was no longer the boy I remembered, but a young man with intelligence and sensitivity, qualities I had always admired in him. It was like seeing him through new eyes, recognizing the strength and determination he had cultivated over the years. At one point in the conversation, he paused and looked at me with a faint, shy smile. "Thank you for listening, Leanna." "Sometimes it's hard to find someone to talk to," he admitted. His honesty touched me deeply. It was then that I assured him that I would always be there to listen and support him, no matter what. And as I said these words, I felt a warmth in my heart, realizing how important this connection was to me. It was as if some of the loneliness I'd been carrying had been lifted, replaced by a real sense of closeness that I hadn't felt in a long time. That night marked the beginning of something new and unexpected between us. In the days that followed, I found that Jalen and I began to talk more often, and his presence became a welcome addition to my life. With Aaron away, my days had felt monotonous and empty, but Jalen brought a sense of companionship and understanding that filled the void. Our conversations became a valued part of my routine, a break in the silence that had settled over my life. Over the weeks, my relationship with Jalen became a refuge, a space of warmth and support in the midst of loneliness. We often met in the kitchen, where he helped me prepare meals, or in my bedroom, where we talked about everything from his dreams and aspirations to the everyday challenges he faced. It was in these moments that I came to appreciate the depth of our bond, a bond that offered me comfort, understanding, and a reminder of the beauty of human connection. Each evening spent in his company reminded me of the value of having someone to lean on, someone who truly listens and cares. And although it began as a simple gesture, his visit soon became something I looked forward to. A quiet yet profound connection that brought light into my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. One night, after many of our late-night conversations, there was a shift between us, almost imperceptible at first. We were sitting together, and Jalen, always curious and thoughtful, asked a question that took me by surprise. He looked at me and said, "Liana, have you ever considered following your dreams? You've been so supportive of everyone else, but what about what you want?" The question took me by surprise because, to be honest, no one had asked me that in a long time. His sincerity stirred something deep inside me, reminding me of the passions and aspirations I had once held dear. I answered him honestly, telling him about the dreams I'd once had and how they had slowly faded into the background as I built a life with Aaron. Although Aaron and I had a stable life, it often felt like a comfortable trap, especially with the endless hours he devoted to his work. Over time, the constant distance created a quiet space between us, and the feeling of being alone, even within a marriage, had begun to creep in. Jalen listened with an expression of empathy and understanding that was both comforting and profound. "It must be hard, Auntie," he said gently. "I've always seen you as a strong person, but we all need someone to lean on." His words struck a chord with me. I had always taken on the role of the caretaker, the one who kept everything in order. But I had forgotten how much I needed support, understanding, and, above all, someone who really saw me. It was then that I realized that Jalen's youth and empathy brought me a comfort I hadn't realized I was longing for. As the evening progressed, our conversation flowed naturally. We laughed, shared stories, and talked about things we'd never talked about before. The bond we shared felt deeper than ever, and the connection between us seemed to take on a new life. There was a warmth in Jalen's smile and an intensity in his gaze that I couldn't ignore, try as I might. It was as if he could see right through me, and I began to feel things I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a very long time. There was a vulnerability in me that night, a vulnerability that found comfort in his presence. It was then that Jalen gently broke through my thoughts and suggested I get some rest. As he got up to leave, he assured me that he would always be there if I needed him. When I was finally alone in the dark, my thoughts drifted